An overwhelming bone-chilling fear surged through his body. This wasn't just a statue, it was something else, something far more dangerous. But that wasn't the only problem. The real danger was the smaller statues. One of them had just killed a hunter in the blink of an eye. Jin-Woo's gaze darted around the room, and what he saw made his blood run cold. A large number of those same statues were lined along the walls, unmoving. For now, Hunter Sung Jin-Woo began to analyze the situation. His thoughts raced. Then something struck him even harder. The hunter who had just been killed, he wasn't weak. He was a D-rank stronger than me, Jin-Woo realized. The shock hit him like a wave. If someone stronger than him could be killed so effortlessly, then what chance did he have? Someone had just been killed by a statue, instantly with a single strike. This was supposed to be just a low-ranked dungeon one, where there shouldn't have been any serious problems. But after what had happened, the runic text carved on the slab was the last thing on anyone's mind. Even the strongest among them, squad leader Mr. Song, was visibly shaken. He too stood frozen in disbelief as the realization set in. The massive statue at the center of the chamber might also be able to move. As Mr. Song voiced his suspicion, Hunter Sung Jin-Woo turned his gaze to the statue at the center. And then something happened that defied all expectations. The statue looked back. It was subtle but unmistakable. Its eyes moved. It was watching him. Suddenly memories came flooding back. A vision of Hunter Sung Jin-Woo's very first raid surfaced. How he was wounded by a goblin-like creature, how he had collapsed from exhaustion, cold hunger, the brink of death. He had always been the weakest, always the one holding the group back. One of the main reasons why he was constantly getting injured, even in the lowest-ranked dungeons, was painfully simple. He didn't have decent gear. His weapons were subpar, his armor barely held together. He was always fighting at a disadvantage. And now, as he stood before a monstrous statue that could kill in an instant, that same feeling of helplessness returned. Throughout it all, one thought had kept Hunter Sung Jin-Woo going: his mother. Her life depended on expensive treatment, and to afford it, Jin-Woo constantly threw himself into dangerous dungeons again and again. Other hunters were always baffled by how often he ended up injured, even in E-rank dungeons. He would emerge from every raid battered, barely standing, sometimes carried out on a stretcher. In addition to paying for his mother's hospital bills, he also had to replace his clothes after every few runs. His gear would often be torn to shreds, worn out from battle. He had faced all kinds of monsters, one of them even a cyclops-like creature, but none of them gave off the same aura as this statue. This one was different. Unlike any monster he had faced before, this statue radiated an oppressive, suffocating danger, and perhaps because Hunter Sung Jin-Woo had stood at death's edge more times than he could count, he sensed it. Without hesitation, he reached out and grabbed the trembling Juhi standing beside him. Her body was shaking, her eyes wide with fear. Then, in a commanding tone that cut through the panic, Jin-Woo shouted, "Everyone, get down now." The other hunters barely had time to react. Everyone was stunned. The weakest hunter in the raid, Sung Jin-Woo, had raised his voice and given an order in a moment of life-and-death urgency. No one expected him to speak, let alone act so decisively. Then it happened. The statue's eyes flared, bright and violent like lightning tearing through a stormy sky. In the next instant, it unleashed a devastating beam aimed directly at Sung Jin-Woo and the healer Juhi. But they had already thrown themselves to the ground. The beam scorched past them, tearing through the floor. The sheer power of the attack was terrifying. Smoke hissed from the statue's eyes, and the place where the beam had struck had turned molten, almost liquefied, steaming from the intense heat. As the hunters began to process what had just occurred, the room was filled with the scent of burning stone and the echoes of chaos. Some were quick to recover and helped others to safety, but horror still lingered on their faces. One hunter screamed upon seeing a charred hand, the only remaining part of someone who had not moved fast enough. This single attack from the giant statue had killed several hunters instantly, and many of those who survived had only done so because of Hunter Sung Jin-Woo's sudden command to stay down. Beside him, Juhi lay motionless on the ground, unconscious or frozen in fear. Mr. Song's voice rang out sharply through the smoke and fear, "Nobody move. Stay where you are, don't get up." Mr. Song raised his voice once more, warning everyone. If anyone stood up again, the statue would attack. At first, not everyone believed him, but after witnessing the devastating power of that beam, they obeyed without question. Seeing Hunter Sung Jin-Woo deeply worried, Mr. Song offered some context. "Miss Juhi, she doesn't handle fear well," he said softly. "That's why she only participates in low-rank dungeons." But then he looked around at the terrifying statues surrounding them. His voice dropped lower, laced with unease, though looking at this place. "Can we really call this a low-rank dungeon?" Mr. Song's gaze shifted back to Jin-Woo. You noticed that, didn't you? He added. Only those who listened to your command survived. Sung Jin-Woo blinked in surprise. He hadn't realized that. Jin-Woo shook his head. No, I just sensed danger, that's all. It was then that Jin-Woo noticed something terrible. Mr. Song's left arm was missing. Blood soaked his side and the wound looked severe. Without hesitating, Jin-Woo rushed to his side and applied pressure, stopping the bleeding as best he could. His movements were swift, practiced, not the actions of a mere E-rank hunter. While Jin-Woo tended to the wound, the rest of the hunters sat in stunned silence, watching the colossal statue with terrified eyes. On Mr. Song's face, a look of disbelief lingered. The difficulty level of this dungeon was far beyond anything he had anticipated. He stared at the giant statue thinking, could this be an S-rank dungeon? And then he remembered something. The rules. The temple was called Kartanen, and the rules of this place were carved into the stone. The first rule, worship the Lord. The second rule, praise the Lord. The third rule, prove your faith. And beneath these inscriptions was a note. The note beneath the commandments was chillingly clear. Those who do not follow the rules will die. With panic thick in the air, only two people remained calm enough to think rationally. Mr. Song and Hunter Sung Jin-Woo. Realizing the danger they were in, the two began discussing what could be done. Jin-Woo's eyes narrowed in thought and something began to take shape in his mind. Meanwhile, Mr. Song voiced a concern. Destroying the statues, it would take too long, and we don't even know if that would stop them.